altars has Hezekiah removed. So this commander knew that Hezekiah was, in favor by the Lord, and he knew that Hezekiah had tore down the brazen altar and these different things. So he's using all these things that were positive, really, but he's using it negatively on him, and he's using it to basically scare off these people in the kingdom. So he says, now make a wager and give pledges to the king of Assyria. I will deliver you 2,000 horses if you can put riders on them. He's basically mocking him at this point. He said, how can you beat one captain among the least of my master's servants when your trust is in an Egyptian for chariots and horsemen? So he's basically saying, even if I give you 2,000 horses, you have no way to beat my army. One of your captains couldn't beat one of my servants, is what he's saying. He said, then the son of Hilkiah and Shebna and Joanne came to the commander. He said, we pray you, speak to your servant. So skip on down. It says in verse 28, then that commander stood and cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language, hear the word the great king of Assyria. Thus says the king, let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you out of thy hand. Now let Hezekiah make trust in you and rely on the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver you. So, I think it's in this chapter. But Hezekiah was scared. I think it actually might be at the beginning of chapter 18. But Hezekiah, at the beginning of this chapter, was a little bit frightened. So what he did, I think, it's actually in verse 13. But, right here in verse 14, it says, then Hezekiah, king of Judah, so chapter 18, verse 14 says, and Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria at Lachish, saying, I have done wrong. Depart from me, what you have put upon me, and I will... And the king of Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. So I did I went on Google and I was like, how much money is that? He gave him, that's over $1.5 million. It's just to pay him off so he wouldn't come into those kingdoms, right? So that's what he had done earlier. So he also went into the temple of the Lord. So in the next verse it says, I'm not sure exactly what verse it's in, but he went into the temple of the Lord and that was in the city, and he went into the doors of the temple, and because they were plated with gold, and he literally took the gold from the temple and gave it to him because he didn't know what else to do. The kingdom was wealthy, obviously, but he basically gave the wealth of the kingdom, and rather than trusting in God, and because he was frightened. That's how we get sometimes. You get a little frightened at what the devil will do and the lies of Satan and everything. And so, but later on in the chapter, that's being used against him. He said, who are you, King Hezekiah, you give me all these riches and you take down these people's altars and you do these things, but who are you? And something that happens a lot with us, and something that happened here is that king actually, he told the truth, or the commander, he told the truth to the king. He said, you're outnumbered. We have a lot of men. We're probably going to defeat you. But what a lot of times Satan will do is he'll tell you the truth, which is kind of like, really? Satan's going to tell you the truth? But he'll tell you the truth, but not to get you to any kind of a victory. He'll tell you the truth to try to get you to defeat and try to get you to give up before you even try. That's what he did. Because the king knew. I wanted to type this with Satan a little bit. The king of Assyria, he was bold, and he kind of, you can tell that they were obviously going to try to overtake Jerusalem. It was the last city. But obviously he was a little afraid because he sent his commander to go and tell them that they were going to come into the city, and he wasn't, he was just kind of iffy. That's what Satan does. He knows, he doesn't want to fight us. He doesn't want to have battles with us. He wants us to give up before we even have the battles, because he knows that even if we might win the battles, because sometimes, a lot of times, we will win the battles, but even though we might win the battles, or even if we do lose, we'll gain a victory from that battle. Even if we fall flat on our face, he knows that from the trial that he gives us, we'll gain a victory. Satan's not an idiot. He knows that he knows that happens. So he just tries to get us to give up. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. But Hezekiah wasn't having that. In verse 33, it says, has any one of these gods of the nations ever delivered his land out of the king? So now he's gotten to the point where the commander and the king of Assyria are mocking God, and that's not cool. He says, where are the gods of Hamath and Arphad? Where are these gods? In verse 35, it says, with who of all the gods of the countries has delivered his country out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? But the people were silent and answered him not a word, for Hezekiah had commanded, "Do not answer him."